Do you know how to back up your footage properly? Well, how would you feel if I told you that all this time you've been doing it wrong? Well, wrong might be a little too strong, but there is a way to make your backup workflow much quicker and safer, and that's by using an app called Hedge. This video isn't sponsored by Hedge, so everything that I'm going to be saying here is all based on my own personal experiences in finding this app and then incorporating it into my whole workflow. Hedge has a bunch of useful tools for filmmakers, but firstly I'm going to talk about the core features of this app. First is being able to assign multiple backups at once. You don't want to rely on copying your footage over to just one hard drive, so this app makes it really easy for you to select multiple destinations of where your source files are going to go. You just select the source that you want to copy, and then you drag and drop the destination hard drives into the right side of the interface, and then you just press add transfer. So you can also do this in Finder by just copying and pasting to the different hard drives that you want your source files to go to, but for me it's just way nicer having a single interface where you can copy all your source files into the hard drives, and you can also see multiple progress bars so you can see how far along your source files are in being copied over to the hard drives. Another cool feature is something called checksum verification. Now, what this basically is, it's a text file that gets attached to your hard drive destination folder where it essentially says, hey, the files have been copied over correctly, and it runs an algorithm to make sure that there's no discrepancies between the source files and the files that actually end up getting copied over to your hard drives. And this is really good for a few reasons. One, it's just good to have a file that says, hey, your files were copied over correctly, versus with Finder, you just hear this noise and then you're like, okay, the files are copied, I guess. I hope. And at least I've never had this problem, but I have had a few friends where even though they copied over via Finder, they would then open up the file in their editing software and they would realize that actually there was a weird error during the copy process and the file didn't actually copy over properly. And at that point, they'd already formatted the memory cards and there's no way to recover a file that has been damaged in the copying process. So checksum is just a really nice additional feature to let you know, hey, the files are copied over correctly. You don't need to worry. There's no problems in the copying process. It's also useful if you're on a film set and you need your camera assistant or DIT to copy over the files for you, because you can have this additional file that confirms that they actually copied the files properly, and there's no like blaming. You can't say, hey, you didn't copy over the files, or maybe you knocked over the card reader with your elbow. No, at this point you have a text file that they can confirm, no, I did it properly, look, it says here that it was all confirmed, and then it just gets rid of any disagreements or arguments or any possible conflicts that could come up when you don't know if a memory card has been copied over properly. So it's just a nice little extra additional confirmation to give you that extra peace of mind, knowing that all that hard work you put into a project is being saved and backed up properly. Another great feature of Hedge is that you can create folder structures really easily. So usually what my folder structure looks like is that I have the project name, and then I have audio video, and then in video I have the roll number of the memory card, and then within that folder I have my raw files, and then also possibly proxy files in there as well. But with Hedge you can automatically set up for Finder to create these folder structures while you're doing the copying process. All you need to do to make this happen is to select the source file name, type in whatever you want in there. So for instance, here we have project file, and then you put a /, and that / represents, hey, I want to make a new folder here. And then I type in video here, and then another /, and then let's type in the roll number of the memory card, so a #001, and then add transfer, and then no matter how many hard drives you're backing up to, it will create this folder structure within these specific hard drives. So there's continuity between all the hard drives, and no matter what hard drive you end up using to edit with, they're all going to be the same anyway. So it just avoids a lot of potential confusion in the future. Now I'm going to take you through some of the more advanced features in Hedge, and this first feature in particular is something that made me fall in love with this whole app, and that's that you can rename your files as you're backing them up onto your hard drives. Now some of you might be asking, why is that useful? Well, when you record footage with a camera, depending on the manufacturer, it'll be labeled as something like C001, and then every time you make a new recording, it'll be C002, 003, and it'll just keep going up and up and up. But where this eventually starts to become a problem is when you keep working on projects, you're shooting multiple things with the same camera, and then that file, which is C999, resets into C001 again. And now what this means is that you have two files that have the exact same file name. And even if you have a really organized file structure, having two of the same file name on your computer can cause loads of problems in the edit. For example, if you edited a project and you finished editing it on one of these things, and then you copy these files over to an external hard drive, if you open up that project again in the future, you're going to have to relink those files in Premiere. And even though Premiere has a really good auto-syncing feature where you can just tell it to search for the file that you want and then automatically sync it back up, you can't rely on this feature if you have multiple clips with the exact same file name, because Premiere doesn't know which clip is which, and it's just going to find the first file that it can that matches that specific clip name. And then you're going to get these annoying zebra stripe lines on your clips because the clips in your timeline don't match the clips that Premiere tried to connect to. And the only solution to fix this problem is that you can't do the automatic syncing. So you have to manually go into each folder of the project, select it, and then search within that folder, which is a really tedious process and it just takes way longer. So really, you want to make sure that every single video file that you back up is 100% unique and it does not have a duplicate with the same name. The only way you can do this in Finder is after the files are finished backing up, but the cool thing about Hedge is that you can do this before the whole backup process takes place. Our next advanced feature is getting a PDF document with an integration called FoolCat. Now this is a paid extra and it's not exactly essential, but it is a really cool thing to have with each backup that you do. Essentially, you get a PDF document that contains a list of all the files that you've copied over in this particular backup, and you can also set it to include screenshots from the actual clip itself. And another cool thing is that it shows you metadata for each of those specific clips that you've backed up. So instead of trying to change the views in Finder so you can have a visual representation of what is in those specific clips, you can very quickly just open up this PDF document and at a glance have a good idea of what files they actually are and what scenes and locations you might have included in this particular backup folder. Also, if you're not going to be the one who's editing this particular project, if you gave this PDF document to an editor, they're going to think you're such a goddamn pro, and they're also going to think that you're the second coming of Roger Deakins.
It's remarkable the difference in quality.
Our final feature is a phone app that Hedge offers called Hedge Connect. Basically, it links to your desktop Hedge app and it allows you to see the progress of your transfers in real time, and it will even notify you once a transfer is complete. I did a particular music video shoot back in 2020 and we didn't have a lot of memory cards for this shoot, so we had to quickly back up these memory cards and then format them so then we could continue shooting our video. But annoyingly, because of the location that we were in, I had my laptop placed in another room, and in order to get to that room you had to go down a bunch of corridors. So many times I was asking my camera assistant, hey, can you check to see what the progress of the backup is? And then that would waste like 2 minutes of her not being on set, and then I would be like, camera assistant, I need a thing, and then she's not there because she's too busy checking to see if the cards have finished backing up. But if I had this app, I could just pull out my phone and get a real-time live progress bar on how the backup is doing. So it would have just saved a few precious minutes here and there. And that's pretty much Hedge. There's a bunch of more advanced features that I didn't mention, things like custom scripting and integrations with things such as frame.io. But I hope I've got you thinking about how you can integrate this app into your workflow to help save you time. And perhaps most importantly, to give you that extra peace of mind knowing that the footage that you've copied onto your hard drives has actually been backed up properly. If you want to learn how I organize my film projects, then check out this other video on my channel right here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.